of an ancient temple said to house such an artifact. My serpent holes can take you.
After an average threequel in the form of Darksiders 3, which took the Darksiders universe into Metroidvania territory, we now have Darksiders Genesis, an average fourquel which takes the Darksiders universe into Diablo territory. I don't absolutely despise Darksiders Genesis, it's just left me feeling Beazel bored. There are some bits that I actually rather enjoyed, others not so much. So let's have a little look at what Darksiders Genesis has to offer and why most of it is far from angelic. Displate, makers of shiny metal posters with fancy magnetic mounting systems, have a lot of nice designs to offer. We've partnered up with them and have our own store page with collections of our favourites, which you can check out by clicking the link in the description.
A door that pretentious can only lead to our boy Samael.
Darksiders Genesis is the debut game of the fourth Horseman of the Apocalypse, Strife. Strife has 2 melee weapons, 2 guns, wears a mask, and is a wisecracker who rarely takes anything seriously unless it's a deep and emotional secret from his past. Oh, and he occasionally breaks the fourth wall.
Ah! I knew it! Level collapse! Waves of enemies!
That is to say, Strife is a Deadpool. Strife is every generic and edgy action game funny man who, were this a TV show, would be played by the guy you get when you want to cast Nathan Fillion, but can't get Nathan Fillion because he's morally and ethically opposed to taking on the role. He's insufferably unfunny. If he didn't have a contrived dark past, then he'd be deeply two-dimensional, and I hate him. Which is frustrating because he also happens to be the more fun of the 2 protagonists to play as. Darksiders Genesis can be played either cooperatively, with each player in control of Strife and War, or solo, switching between 2 characters to make use of their different movesets and special abilities. Strife keeps his distance from enemies, controlling the battlefield from afar and making heavy use of ranged attacks. He can pull off fancy moves like leaving a decoy that'll shoot at demons to draw their attention away from him, and he has at his disposal an arsenal of different ammunition types, like Static Shot, which arcs a sustained bolt of lightning across multiple enemies, or Lava Shot, which fires off sticky rounds which glorp to enemies and explode. You also have a hot streak meter, which will fill up as you do more damage, and once full, you'll enter a hot streak mode, with a big bar representing your ammo that will slowly drain over time as well, and super meaty versions of the ammo types you're using. For Static Shot, the lightning arc does a bunch more damage while being able to reach more enemies, and for Lava Shot, you get a flamethrower for some examples. As much as Strife's character makes me want to die over and over again, the mechanics stapled to his body are incredibly Moorish.
Mind your tongue, wretch, before I cut it out. Our work doesn't concern you.
Unlike War, who not only is painfully boring as a person, he's also just not that fun. For me, and my preferences at least. War is the straight-faced killjoy paladin that takes everything at face value. His inability to understand Strife's admittedly really shit jokes is 50% of his personality, and the other 50% is his inability to stop for a moment and think about the task ahead. If you're a fan of the Adventure Zone D&D podcast, he has a typical case of Magnus rushes in syndrome. War has a light attack and a heavy attack with his sword. He can perform different combo attacks and has a little selection of abilities that include dashing forwards very fast and doing a big bash, and slamming into the ground to make a bunch of bigger swords pop out and knock back foes, among others. In place of Strife's stash of ammo types, War has a selection of enhancements that each change what style of attack happens when you hold down your special attack button. I was playing on controller because I find that easier for twin-stick games. One of the 2 I used the most was Flamebrand, which sets your sword alight as you become a spinning top, roaming around as a fast-moving circle of fire and damaging baddies. It's particularly good for crowd control of some of the weaker demons. The other was Death Touch, a big sweeping attack that marks enemies with a spooky ring of runes. Upon death, they'll explode into ghostly mist and skulls, dealing area of effect damage to any other enemy surrounding them. War, as well as Strife, also has a selection of different Legend of Zelda style puzzle solving items that can be optionally used in combat. The 2 that are unique to him are the Vorpal Blade and the Tremor Gauntlet. The Vorpal Blade is a glaive that you can throw to activate switches or carry flame with to light fire pits, and can lock onto various targets to map out its pathway. The Tremor Gauntlet, as the name suggests, is a big punchy glove that can blast away red crystals that obscure level pathways and secrets, and activate heavy pressure plates which either act as switches or as spring pads to reach high up platforms. War's playstyle isn't really my jam though, so the only times I really found myself playing as him throughout my time with Darksiders Genesis was to use those special items when I needed to, when I got killed as Strife and needed to wait for his respawn timer to count down, and when a co-op partner wanted to play as Strife. Besides buying upgrades to your attacks and abilities, the primary means of levelling yourself up in Darksiders Genesis is through creature cores. These are orbs dropped by various enemy types you encounter throughout the game. Once you defeat a new enemy type, that creature core will be unlocked and you can use it to expand a creature core tree, each core applying a different modifier or adding a specific effect to your gameplay. There are minor cores and major cores, the minor dropped by standard enemy types you run across, the major dropped by bosses. Most branches in the creature core tree are for minor ones, with major core slots at the ends. You level up these cores and improve the benefits they give you by collecting more of them. They also have varying drop rates. Often you'll kill an enemy and they won't drop a core. You can also find chests that will drop cores, and later on in the game you'll be able to buy randomised core boxes of different rarity levels from Vulgrim, the demon whose domain you use as your home base and who runs one of the 2 shops available to you in-game. There's a big issue with this system, and that issue is the grind fest. To fully level up some minor creature cores, you'll need to collect up to as many as 30 of them, and some major cores require up to 10 to fully level. With variable core drops, and considering some of the cores are only dropped by bosses you encounter at the ends of chapters, there's a lot of replaying that needs to be done in order to collect more of the cores. Or, conveniently enough, there's an arena mode with different stages that put you up against different enemies that you encounter in the story chapters, where you can do all of your grinding in a more efficient way. I think I might enjoy this if it didn't demand so much replaying or so much arena grinding. It's the kind of busy work game design that, were you given the option to pay real money for premium boosters that increase creature core drop rates, it wouldn't feel out of place within the context of the game. At time of writing, this isn't an option you're given, which just makes it confusing more than anything else. Not a fan. My favourite bit about Darksiders Genesis by far is the boss you fight at the end of Chapter 2. You journey into the Slag Pit, the dungeon of a demon who has stolen something from Vulgrim that you need in order to progress your mission. After some mini puzzles to unlock the vault where this thing is being kept, a big, chonky boy with a Cockney accent and a giant rolling pin for a weapon slams down onto the ground, and he's called the Slag Demon. The Slag Demon. A Cockney demon called the Slag Demon with a big rolling pin. Is there anything more I need to say about that? No? I will anyway. This great big stonking demon lad has some fantastic character design, with not only some curled horns on his head, but 2 even bigger horns on his back as well. He's got this massive great tail with a big metal ball on the end of it that looks like it could be used as a flail, even though he never does. It's just there for style points. And the rolling pin! The rolling pin! It's got a little carving on it of the demon's face, presumably, so if he's out clubbing and puts it in the cloakroom, he can get it back if he's lost the ticket for it by pointing at it and going, "Look, it's my face on it, so it's mine." When he attacks with it, he puts it down on the ground and becomes a big living steamroller, which is fantastic. Heaven forbid we ignore the next level comedy factor of giving a boss called the Slag Demon a Cockney accent. I don't know if he had an accent before he was called the Slag Demon, or if he was called the Slag Demon and someone at Airship Syndicate said, well, obviously he's got to be a Cockney, hasn't he? And honestly, I don't know which I like more. The Slag Pit is the only chapter of the campaign that I've actually enjoyed going back and replaying, purely because I know that I have the Slag Demon to look forward to at the end of it. I love him with all my heart. I ran into 3 recurring glitches in Darksiders Genesis. One was superficial, another slightly irritating, and one which was really f***ing annoying. The first is just a visual thing. If you hold the jump button after performing a double jump, some spectral wings will stick out of your back, and you'll gently glide for a few seconds. Sometimes those wings won't appear. The most this led to was occasionally falling down a pit because I didn't think I was gliding and went to hit the jump button again, but it only happened around 1 out of every 30 to 40 times I did it, so it wasn't a big deal. The second is thanks to some slightly janky environmental architecture. On 2 occasions, characters got stuck in the geometry. The first occasion was while I was in the home base, and switching characters and jumping around a bunch managed to get me out of it. The second occasion, the fellow reviewer I was testing out online co-op with got stuck behind one of the switches for the door to the next area, and this time they couldn't escape, so we had to pull out of that chapter and decided to try a different one. The third makes multiplayer a bit of a chore. When playing in single player, you press a key or a button combo to switch between characters. In multiplayer, that same input sends a request to your co-op buddy to switch characters, which they can confirm by pushing the same button/buttons. When myself and the other reviewer tried doing this, all that would happen is this. I'd send a request and my partner would go to accept the request, but instead this made them send me a request too. Neither of us could accept the requests, we could only send them to each other, never to be answered. To take turns playing each character, the host had to end the multiplayer session, switch characters, and then re-invite the other. This is frustrating, and hopefully something that's fixed in a day 1 patch. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with a game which I think is in a lot of ways just fine. I won't lie and say that I'll be thinking much about Darksiders Genesis after this video goes live though, because it's a sin to tell a lie and I won't be. The combat is serviceable, the characters are annoying, the plot is kind of boring, and the grindfest has a major yawn factor. It's unfortunate that the 4th Horseman of the Apocalypse's debut wasn't a solo game like the previous 3, and even more of a shame that he's a bit of a prick.
I will bathe in your blood! That would be a relief, actually. You smell like shit.
Ultimately, I think a more fitting name for the game would be Darksiders Genesis. There's something here that some will enjoy though, it just isn't the sort of game for me. If they started selling slag demon figurines though, I'd snatch one up in a f***ing second. Just look at him. There aren't any slag demon posters on display yet, but if any do pop up, I'll be adding them to my collection on the store page we have because we've partnered up with them. Displate make these really nice metal posters with a magnetic mounting system that means you don't need to drill into your wall. There are over 500,000 designs, and we've even gone and picked out each of our favourites to go into little collections on our page on the store, so if you buy any of those ones then a bit of money will come back to us and we can use that money to take over the world. They also plant 10 trees for every poster sold, which is good for the environment. If you enjoyed this review and found it helpful, please do give it a like and subscribe to Rock Paper Shotgun for more videos like it. If you have any questions about Darksiders Genesis that weren't covered here, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Cheers very much for watching and hopefully see you again soon.